The AK-47 is one of the most legendary rifles in history, rugged, reliable, and battlefield-proven. But not all AKs are created equal. Around the world, countless countries and companies have produced their own versions of the iconic rifle, and while some are excellent, others are complete disasters. In today's video, we're counting down the top 5 worst AK copies ever made. These are the rifles you absolutely don't want in your collection or your hands. Welcome to AK Copies You Should Never Buy. Let's kick off the list with the post-ban Egyptian Mahdi AKs, specifically the ones imported into the US during the 1990s. The original Mahdi rifles were built on Soviet tooling and had a solid reputation. However, after US import restrictions tightened, many of these rifles were neutered with cheap parts, thumbhole stocks, and poor US-made components. Some lacked proper heat treatment, others had canted sights, and many were assembled with subpar craftsmanship. While early Mahdis had promise, the post-ban models are plagued with quality issues that make them unreliable, uncomfortable, and simply not worth the hassle. Next up is the infamous early WASR-10, the budget AK of the 2000s that earned a reputation for being one of the worst-built rifles on the American market. Originally single-stack magazine rifles modified to accept standard mags, early WASRs often suffered from sloppy magazine well cuts, severe magazine wobble, and misaligned parts. Add in weak spot welds, rough triggers, and canted front sights, and you've got a rifle that was cheap for a reason. While later WASR-10s improved drastically, the earlier imports were a perfect example of quantity over quality and are still floating around gun shows today. Buyer beware. Coming in at number 3 is the Chinese Type 56, specifically the cheap commercial export variants that flooded international markets in the 1980s and 1990s. While early military-issued Type 56 rifles were rugged and dependable, the later export models were often built with lower-grade materials, soft metal parts, and questionable heat treatment. Many lacked proper quality control and were assembled in haste for profit rather than performance. In conflict zones, these rifles quickly earned a reputation for accelerated wear, barrel erosion, and poor accuracy. Next is a US-made disaster, the Century Arms RAAS-47. Marketed as an American alternative to imported AKs, the RAAS-47 looks decent at first glance, but it hides a host of fatal flaws. The biggest problem? Cast trunnions and bolt carriers, components that are under extreme stress during firing. These parts have been documented to deform or even crack with regular use, creating dangerous conditions for the shooter. Combine that with poor quality control, uneven rivet jobs, and inconsistent accuracy, and you've got a rifle that might look like an AK, but definitely doesn't perform like one. Most serious AK collectors warn others to avoid it completely. At number 1, we have the notorious Khyber Pass AKs, produced in the mountainous tribal regions between Pakistan and Afghanistan. These rifles are the stuff of legend, and not in a good way. Crafted by local gunsmiths using hand tools and scrap metal, these AKs are a mixture of folklore, bravery, and sheer mechanical guesswork. While the craftsmanship can be impressive in a "how did they even build this way?", Khyber Pass AKs are notoriously unreliable, inaccurate, and unsafe. Barrels are often unrifled or mismatched. Bolt carriers made from inferior metals, and tolerances are all over the place. They may look cool in photos, but in real life, firing one is a gamble, and buying one is a terrible idea. As a bonus entry, we can't forget the militia-made Tabuk clones from Iraq. The original Tabuk was an Iraqi AKM built under license from Yugoslavia, and many were decently made. However, during the chaos of the Iraq War and the rise of various militias, crude homemade copies started showing up. These rifles were built in underground workshops with salvage parts, poor quality steel, and little to no heat treatment. Some didn't even have proper head spacing. In many cases, these rifles were dangerous to fire and wildly inaccurate. They might look like AKs from a distance, but they're often ticking time bombs. So there you have it. 5 AK rifles that you should think twice about before owning or even firing. Whether it's because of poor materials, sloppy assembly, or flat-out dangerous designs, these AK copies are a far cry from the rifle that made the Kalashnikov name famous. If you're looking for an AK, stick to proven models from reputable countries like Russia, Bulgaria, Poland, or Serbia. Because when it comes to rifles, it's not just about looks, it's about reliability, durability, and safety. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, have you ever fired a bad AK? Which copy do you think is the worst ever made? Stay